guys, and welcome to the weekly session, a video series where I am running through a practice I ran with my under-9s this past week. Today we're looking at 1 versus 1 defending with a specific focus on making recovery runs if you are beaten in a 1v1 situation. So the main objectives of the session today were to sprint to recover goal side, delay again if needed. Obviously if you can win the ball, do so, but if not, can you slow the play down? And then to look at resetting the team shape so that if we are beaten, we're also in a position to deal with the next wave of the attack. The key words for the session that I was looking for the players to have a better understanding of was recovery, goal side and shape. Now for a lot of coaches, these seem like normal words that all of us should understand. However, in the mind of an 8 and 9-year-old, they might not be that clear, or they might have a slightly different interpretation of it. In my situation in particular, the majority of the kids don't speak English as a first language, so just making sure that we've got a clear understanding on what these three terms mean and what they relate to is a big help for their long-term development. As for the detail of the session, what we're working on was recovering if beaten in a 1v1 situation. How to do it, think about your body shape. Can you show them away from the goal? Can you at least angle them in a direction that you want them to go? Thinking about recovering goal side, getting your arm out to potentially hold the player off, and also having that side on stance. If they do knock the ball past you, it's easier to turn and recover. Why we're looking at this, it's a reaction to getting beaten. You've probably seen it plenty of times, whether it's with your team or whether it's with other teams. A player will get beaten and then stand still. I mean, I'm an Aston Villa supporter. I see it from some of our players on a weekly basis. So it even happens at the Premier League. And for me and my game model, making sure the players react to someone going past them and continuing to apply that pressure is an important part of that. When it's in a 1 versus 1 situation, specifically, I'm looking at when we're in front of our own goal, but this particular topic could be covered all over the pitch. Where is in our defensive third, and the key players that I'm focusing on are the centre-back and the centre midfielder. Upon arrival, I ran an 8 versus 2 Rondo. This is different to what I normally do with the 3v3s. However, the reason why I did this is because I had a mixed group this week of under 9s and under 11s, and for me it was an easier way of getting them going. Plus, in terms of the setup of the pitch and in terms of how I had the area set up, I had access to a full 7v7 pitch. Just being able to use the circle, the centre circle in the middle of the pitch to do this rondo was far easier than me putting some cones down and picking some cones back up. Rondos are also a good arrival activity for players. You can throw them straight in. You can start with as little as 3 versus 1 and then build up as the players arrive. For my own purpose, in terms of the rules I run, because we've got 2 in the middle, if the person makes a mistake, that means they lose the ball. They will go in the middle, plus the person who passed it to them. I'm trying to reinforce the idea that if someone makes a mistake when receiving, it's usually down to a not so good pass. So putting that emphasis on the person passing the ball as well as the person receiving the ball is a good way to get the players sort of mentally focused for the session ahead. We then moved into a 1 versus 1 practice to goal. I had groups of 3. One player would start with a ball, they would pass to the attacker, and as soon as that pass was played, the defender would then go and put pressure on. As you can see from the video, the goal is slightly angled, as I wanted the defender to focus on angling the player on the ball away from goal, but also to get them think about recovering goal side, which was one of the key objectives. In order to progress the session, I just moved the goal over to the other side. Additionally, I also had 1 group of 4 working. For that group, rather than using a mini goal, I used a bigger goal, and I had one of the players act as a goalkeeper, so there was a little bit more game realism in there. We then moved on to a 6-ball 2 versus 2 line ball to goal practice. The two players defending the big goal, if they won the ball, their job was to run the ball back to the line / the end zone where the balls came from, and the 2 players who were the attackers would try and score in the big goal against the goalkeeper. Anytime the ball went out of play, that ball would be left and the attackers would get a new ball, having 6 attacks in total before we switched the roles. In terms of a progression, you can simply turn it into a proper game. So if the ball goes out of play, you can have regular restarts, and it's a line ball versus goal game. Because of the nature of the practice, there was plenty of opportunities for the player on the ball to be brave in 1v1s, and as a result, the person defending them to have to recover if they were beaten. It's also a fun practice for the players because it's game-like, and when I run these type of practices with these kids in particular, they tend to get a lot more out of the session when things are game-like rather than just going through static drills, so to speak. If players are more invested in the session, if players are more motivated to play, then they're going to be more enthusiastic and they're going to be more responsive to the coaching points that you're trying to deliver. You're also more likely to get game style intensity, which I know is something a lot of coaches struggle with. When players start games, they want them to start a little bit faster. And if you're going to do that, then it's important that your training sessions mirror that kind of intensity. Finally finished off with a 5v5. I wanted to keep it simple because of the mixed in age groups. We threw in a very, very basic rule in that if you win the ball and you're able to score within 5 or 6 seconds, then that goal is worth 3. Again, encouraging the defenders to make those recoveries rather than just thinking, you know what, I'm beaten, I can let that player go on to somebody else now. It's very tempting to go with just a regular free play game, but one of the problems with doing this is that players can go off on their own tangents. So I like to throw a little constraint or a little condition in just to keep that focus on the objectives and on the topic that we're trying to cover. And it also then gives me opportunities to step into the game, whether it's something that can be slightly improved or whether it's something that the kids have done well. And at this age in particular, I'd argue that positive demonstrations, so stepping in and highlighting when they've done something well and painting the picture as to why it was good and how it's helped the team, are just as important as stepping in and correcting, if not more important. Make sure you give us a thumbs up if you've enjoyed this video, especially if you're going to use it with your team. And don't forget to follow us to watch week 13, where we're going to be running through a street style small-sided game practice.